Okay, great. All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Township of Springfield Board of Adjustment meeting for August 15, 2023. The time is 6:08. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with Sunshine Law. Notice was published on January 5th, 2023 in the Star Ledger, one of the official newspapers for the Township of Springfield for the year 2023. Posted in the Annex Building on January 6, 2023, and notice is also given on the Township's website. Can we please stand to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Stephen Hochstein. Here. Mr. Stephen Furstenbaum.
Present.
Mr. Rajay A. Sahada. Mr. Michael Weckstein. Ms. Marla Naparano. Ms. Marissa Horowitz. Ms. Anika Dotson. Vice Chair Mark Cunningham.
Present.
And Chair Jody Cohen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will start with the minutes. First, we have the minutes from the June 2023 meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? If so, are there any questions, comments? If none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from June 2023?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the minutes from July 11th are also up for consideration. Has every member had an opportunity to review? Are there any questions or comments? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next order of business is resolutions for memorialization. The first resolution up is for application 2023-1538 Benjamin Drive, Block 3002, Lot 12. Have we had an opportunity to review? Are there any questions, comments? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Dotson? Yes. Mr. Furstenbaum?
Yes.
Ms. Horowitz? Vice Chair Cunningham?
Yes.
And Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next resolution up for memorialization is application 2023-16 to Joanne Way, Block 906, Lot 21. Has everyone had an opportunity to review? Are there any questions or comments? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move. Second.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Furstenbaum?
Yes.
Ms. Horowitz? Yes. Ms. Dotson? Yes. And Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The last resolution up for memorialization is application 2023-5295 US Highway 22, Block 4001, Lot 3. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the resolution? Are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Dotson? Yes. Mr. Furstenbaum?
Abstain.
Ms. Horowitz? Yes. Vice Chair Cunningham?
Abstain.
And Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to the applications this evening. The first application that we have is application 2023-17, 264 Mountain Avenue, Block 1305, Lot 50. This is a request for lot coverage variance for a pool installation. Are the applicants or applicant here? Yes, please come forward. Are you both going to speak? You could both come up. Do you have any witnesses other than you two testifying? No. Okay. We're gonna swear you in first. Is the microphone on?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay, perfect. We'll just let the record reflect that board member Marla Naparano has arrived at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Both please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name, give your home address.
Sandra Laguerre, Laguerre. I reside at 264 Mountain Avenue.
And I'm Patrick Laguerre, Laguerre. I also reside at 264 Mountain Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do and the reasons that you are requesting the variance relief, please.
Okay. We are looking to build an in-ground pool in our backyard. We applied for, I guess, a permit, and it was denied because it exceeds the lot coverage, I think by 10% or so. We also didn't have, I guess, the proper drain size, so we also fixed that with the engineers. We would like to build a pool, of course, entertainment. Also, we have a grandchild who spends the summers with us, who loves to swim, so we would love to have that for her, as opposed to taking her to camp and having to pay for that every summer. And also for ourselves, as I said, for entertainment and exercise.
Also in 2016, I had a heart attack, and from that point on, it's been very important that I find some measure of exercise. My job is very demanding. I coach in Hudson County, so it's very rare that I have opportunities to join a club or some type of a fitness center. So on vacation, I usually take that time to take advantage of the pools and the resorts or wherever we are vacationing at. So for me personally, it's very therapeutic. It's something that my doctor recommended, my cardiologist recommended I do as much as possible. So that was one of the motivations for why we wanted to get a pool as well too, because of my health ailments and my ability to control and manage my pain. And a pool is an excellent opportunity for me to continue to get better and to treat and manage my pain.
So the overage is 4 point, oh, I guess it's 10%, it's 10.9 on the permitted, but the existing is 42%, so it would be an increase of 4.9%. And I do see that it is an undersized lot. Are there any questions from members of the board?
As I'm looking at the pictures that you submitted, basically the pool is replacing the tree that's in the back?
That's a big contention in our house. Yes, the pool would be, the tree would have to go.
But it's basically in the same location?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for our engineer. Is there any, do you think there should be any water mitigation done on the site as part of this?
It is required. They did propose an infiltration trench on the plan. It's on the left side. So conceptually, that works. It's a little too small. We did document that. So it would have to be increased in size, but conceptually, the infiltration trench is an appropriate method to mitigate.
And I just have a technical question. The setbacks on here are measured to the pool deck. Do we do the setbacks to the water or to the pool deck when we
There are separate setback requirements for the pool. So this requires variance relief for a 15-foot setback is required in this zone for pools. So they're at 10.9 and 10.5 to the rear and to the side respectively. So there's variance relief for that. The decking or walkways around it do have a separate thing, but they actually clear. It's only 5 foot, so they're generally acceptable.
Okay.
You also have a variance required for the rear yard coverage area for the pool. Pool section limits it to 20% coverage. They're at 20.8%, so nominally over on that.
So it would be side yard setbacks
For the pool
for
and
the
the rear yard
pool,
setback.
the
for
rear yard
pool.
setback for the coverage, and then the lot coverage.
Yes.
And if approved, a condition that
To
the
mitigate,
infiltration trends meet
it would be enhanced
engineering
in size
standards.
for
Any other questions from members of the board? Are there any members of the public that that have any questions? Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on the application? Okay, there are none. I would be in favor of granting the relief that's requested, on the condition with respect to the infiltration trends that it be increased in size. I don't believe that this would cause any detriment to the neighboring properties, and so, I'd be in favor of granting the application.
I'll move the application if,
Great, is there a
I'll sec-
second?
I'll second.
Mr. Furstenbaum?
yes.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Naparano?
Yes.
Ms. Horowitz? Yes. Ms. Dotson? Yes. Vice Chair Cunningham?
Yes.
And Chair Cohen?
Yes,
Motion passes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. The next application that we're gonna call is application 2023-19. For 43 Owassa Avenue, block 807, lot 22. This is a request for rear and side yard variances to install a shed on the property.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, give your home address.
Mark Adam Kraus, Krauss, 43 Owassa Avenue.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do and your reasons for doing so.
Purchasing a prefabricated shed, and you have a picture of the depiction that I provided for you. The setback is normally 5 feet. I just want to push it back a little further, not to waste so much space in my backyard. It's butting up against the privacy fence that's already there, which is 6 feet tall. So my neighbors would only see about 2 feet 4 inches of the height. I know none of my neighbors are here, but they all said no problems. Just moving the gardening tools and things out of the garage so I can have some more space in the garage. And it looks nice.
Any questions from the board?
Just had a very quick question. The survey that's next to the application.
Right.
Is from 2002.
No, the survey diagram was from something else that I was looking at doing, is getting solar panels, and never had that. I just used that diagram to provide the indication.
What changes, if any, have there been to the footprint of the property
No.
since then?
No changes, sir.
Fine.
Well,
Okay, any members of the public have any questions for the witness? Any members of the public wish to speak on this application? No. This is the rear and the side yard that we're talking about, 2
Yes.
feet on each?
Yep.
I'm in favor of granting the relief. I don't think it would cause any harm, and I think that pushing it as far over, especially with the fences already screening it, is adequate, so. If we're in agreement, or,
I just have one, what is the material that the shed is made of?
Let me see. Okay. It's a wood and shingles on top.
Okay. My only question is 3 feet enough room for you to like paint it and take care of the outside?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's also resting on a 4 inches of stone gravel frame with a 4x4s that are 8 by 10. So it's gonna be centered on that.
Yeah, that was my only question.
Thank you.
okay? Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Horowitz? Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Mr. Furstenbaum?
Yes.
Ms. Naparano? Ms. Dotson? Vice Chair Cunningham?
Yes.
And Jody Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. Have a good evening.
I don't want to eat my apple, and I know it's noisy and annoying. Only here. Well, that's why I put the nibs there.
That sounded good. Do you have any to share?
Okay, the next application this evening and our last application this evening is application 2023-10, 266 Morris Avenue LLC, located at 266-268 Morris Avenue, Block 206, Lot 10. This is a request for preliminary and final site plan relief, approval with use variance relief, and this is a continuation from the June meeting, June 20th meeting. Good evening, Mr. Goodman, how are you?
Very fine, thank you. Except for the traffic coming over here, 45 minutes to get from Cranford.
Ooh,
Gary Goodman on behalf of the applicant. This is a continuation of our application whereby we were asking for a use variance for apartments in the front. At our last hearing, the board had asked a number of questions, one of which was who parks in the parking area in the back, a breakdown of what's in the container that's on the property, and how would the additional parking be utilized in the parking area for the apartments. We have our same crew here tonight. Ed Deck will be testifying with regard to the revised site plan. And I can indicate that the trailer that's on the property, the applicant will be removing the trailer. And there is, I believe, that showed up on the survey, the town of Springfield has a pipe that traverses the property. And Mr. Deck will indicate that whatever was burdening that pipe is now going to be removed. Mr. Santarella will testify with regard to a roster of the individuals that rent parking spaces in the commercial area. I believe we had provided an exhibit to the board, and he will substantiate what I've indicated with regard to the removal of the trailer. I'd like to call Ed Deck.
Mr. Deck, I'm going to swear you in again, even though you were sworn last time. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please give us your full name, spell your last name, and give us your business address.
Edward, middle initial S, last name Deck, D-E-C, 131 North Michigan Avenue, Kenilworth, New Jersey.
And just for the record, Mr. Deck was approved as an expert engineer at the last hearing.
Okay, thank you.
And your license is still current from last time?
Yes, it is.
Good, good. Mr. Deck, could you familiarize the board once again with what's there now?
Certainly. In front of the board and on this easel is the set of plans last revised July 28th, 2023. What's changed on here is the zoning chart, which now shows that we are able to provide the 18 stalls that are required for the proposed use. Other than that, this sheet has not changed. Sheet 2 also has not changed. Well, except for the fact we're showing the lease area that's proposed under a different application in the rear of the property. We show all the existing features that were there previously, and I'll explain how we've modified that in the next sheet. We do show now the existing 36-inch RCP that traverses our property, and it does go underneath an existing container, and it just runs alongside the existing garage. And I'll just go into further detail of that on the next page. Again, the zoning chart shows that we have the, well, not on this chart, but on the front chart, we have the required number of parking stalls. So on to sheet 3. And sheet 3 is dated July 28th, so as the cover sheet is, we do show that we have the 18 stalls and 12 here in the existing parking lot, and 6 additional now placed in the rear of that portion of the overall or the large-scale parking area. What we're proposing to do is we're going to eliminate, well, actually, what I have here is a plan. This is a plan that the board has. It shows the trailer. That trailer is proposed to be removed. The applicant, instead of trying to reconfigure the orientation of it, we are going to remove the trailer completely. It will no longer be there, not be used for any purposes. It will not be on the site. We show 6 parking stalls in this area, which will have, and I'm going to go back to a plan. I think probably I should mark this as evidence or Exhibit A, because there is a change to this. I've eliminated on this plan the location of the trailer that is going to be removed. So, no, not this one.
Hold on. Yep, Bruce.
Just for the record, how many sheets did you have here?
How many? Sheets, we have 3 sheets, that are the same sheets that are in front of the board members, and I have 1 additional sheet that has the elimination of the trailer that was there.
These are the July 28, 2023 revisions.
That's correct.
Just for the record, thank you.
So what we've done, we've eliminated the trailer. We've took into consideration the comments made by the board engineer about that small triangular piece in the main parking lot. Also reduced the large, we had a large extended parking stall along the garage. That's been eliminated. Nothing in front of the garage now as far as parking goes. What we are proposing is to have a separate entranceway for the vehicles that'll be using the parking area for storage purposes. And we have a separate fenced-in area, not fenced-in, but partition that'll channel the cars that are going into this proposed parking area. We will have a gate there, which will prevent anybody using that area other than the tenants, which will be assigned to those parking spaces. We still show the container and still show the garage, and the applicant has said that if it's a condition of approval, he will remove the container and remove the garage. We do not show any easement along this 36-inch RCP pipe. However, if it's something that the board and the township would require, applicant does not have any objection to that. And that is about the extent of the changes and improvements we made to the plans. I guess I'll just repoint again this lease area that's up here. Lease, it's a signed lease area that the applicant has, I guess, has a lease with another application.
Yeah, the applicant, when he testifies, will testify to the fact that he entered into a contingent lease for that rectangular area for a billboard sign. That billboard company has made an application, I believe, to this board that eventually will be heard. It's my understanding that the town of Springfield has passed an ordinance that provides that a billboard sign is a conditional use. But we simply show it as something that the applicant has entered into a lease contingent on board approval, and that will be in the future by that particular applicant.
Can I just ask?
Yes.
Because it was breaking up with the mic before. I know you said he was removing the trailer. What did you say about the masonry garage?
Right, there's a existing container and an existing garage. Oh, I'm sorry, the existing mason, that's staying. That's staying,
The
yes.
one to the right
That smaller one, yes.
is leaving, and then the rental, the parking spaces that were going to be for the tenants are on the, near the top of that, or are they closer to the apartment building?
They're right here. It shows 4 and 6 with a 24-foot backup space. So
Who would be in the spots that are closer to the building?
that area here, which is, it's shown as proposed parking area for apartments, would be assigned parking for the people in the,
Oh, and then down by the, closer to Morris Avenue, where it says asphalt area, those are parking for the stores downstairs, is that?
However,
Those are non-tenant.
however the landlord decides to break it up.
And then where was the gate exactly you were saying going?
the gate would be here, which would like fence off this private parking area that's designated for the apartments.
I'm sorry, one more time, where's the gate?
Right here, we're showing, it says proposed gate. In other words, to get into that area, it would be gated off. And it'll also be completely surrounded with fencing.
But they would only be able to exit going around to Duffy Way.
That's, the only way in and out would be through that adjoining lot, that's correct.
So there's no gate to the back area that he's
No,
renting out to
no.
the spaces, only to the people?
That's correct.
Is there a specific reason why the parking area is gated for the apartment?
Just to be sure that no one, other than the ones who are assigned for that area, that'll utilize that parking area. Want to make sure that it's kept clean and clear, other than for car.
We don't foresee that being too tight of a parking gated area for 4 slots.
Well, they are 9 by 18 in width and length. We have a 24-foot wide driveway access for backup space, and these are also 9 by 18s. So there's plenty of room for a car to pull in and back out, and then go out the way through that gate.
It was my understanding at last hearing, the board had asked for clarification on how those spaces would be separated from the commercial rental spaces for vehicles.
I think we were under the understanding that the rented area would be fencing, because you're talking about large trailers, not 4 to 6 slots of parking. Or that's what my understanding was when we last left.
So you're suggesting that the,
Like, I would think one fenced-in area, you have trailers going in and out, not 4 to 6 parking slots. Like, it's a tight fit. I'm visually trying to get this one.
I have a question. If the garage and container from that corner were removed, could the parking spaces be realigned along the eastern property edge?
Absolutely.
So that could 6 parking spaces fit there?
We could fit, that's right, it'll fit.
That might be less of a claustrophobic configuration. Because I think right now if it's residential, there's gonna be a lot of in and out. And I think that's probably what your concern is there's gonna be people pulling in and out in very tight areas with a lot going on in a fenced-in area. So, I think the more straightforward the layout can be, the better.
Well, the applicant has no objection to removing the container in the garage, and that is wide enough for 2 stalls.
And I think as far as the gate question, as far as I understood in the last meeting, there was an existing gate that protects this back portion and separates this area. And so there was a question of, will it remain gated? And if so, the parking that was proposed proposed back there, how would it be accessed? Because there's, you know, two competing parking uses back there. The landscape trucks and, users, and then the proposed residential parking. And so there was a question about the gate. Not necessarily that the residential parking needs to be gated, but how they would access that parking. So, I think there's a little bit of confusion there. And I'm of the same mind as Ms. Naparano, where I don't necessarily see the need for the gate around the residential parking unless it's the applicant's will for security purposes.
So is it your recommendation that we have the gate separating the commercial parking in the back and leave the residential, which will now be 6 spaces, open?
Wasn't necessarily a recommendation. I think there was more of a question last time of how will those spaces be accessed if there is a gate? And what's the fate of that? What's moving forward? What's the proposal? If this is the proposal, fine. I have no recommendations about, you know, the security and, you know, how that's handled by the property owner. I just think there needed to be some solution to how those spaces were accessed by normal, you know, residential users.
And then I just have a follow-up question with that. So then you're leaving the garage masonry there, which, and there is like a fenced area where your trailers do currently go down, and then the other part is around where the tent used to be for the restaurant. So where would you be building like a fenced-in area for the parking? Like, I know you have like the restaurants, you know, you come in, you make the right, and it divides, and you have the trailers going to the back, and then they're going to the right. So, where would your,
Well, the separation can be placed here, but right now, what we're saying is that this area would be isolated from the rest of the parking area. So there's really no reason to have 2 separate gates, although that could be a recommendation that we would take, you know, if the board would require it, we could put a gate on that area here and separate the 2 parking areas. But I think if we isolate that parking area by itself, I think having another gate there just doesn't.
What kind of mechanism is being considered to make sure that only tenants can park in those areas that you have allocated?
Well, right now, we're not proposing any kind of automated or electronic type gating.
So if I wanted to eat at either of the 2 restaurants nearby, and the place was, and those
Utilize the
restaurants were
microphone.
crowded, could I use those spots? Am I physically able to use them?
Well, you would have signage on the fence saying for apartment use only.
But I would be perfectly able, physically. to be
Physically,
able to go
if you,
there and-
right, if you didn't want to, yeah,
If I wanted to ignore those signs.
That's right,
I
yes.
could do that.
certainly.
Also, the lease that you were talking about, how long, what is the term of that lease?
I was going to have Mr. Santarella testify to that. I just wanted to indicate to the questioner what it was about. So Mr. Santarella can give you the terms of the lease.
It's only 3 years, 5 years, it's only 2 words. Can you tell me?
If I knew the terms, I would have answered the question. I don't know. He knows. I wasn't involved in the lease.
Just, if I may, just to make sure the record is clear here. You've got a square called garage container in the corner. That is being removed?
If it's upon the board's recommendation, the applicant will remove both the garage and the container.
And then there's another building or item marked trailer,
That's totally being removed, no question.
and then existing masonry garage
Is,
remain.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Can you tell me the size of the parking spots for the people in the apartments?
Yes, they're all 9 by 18s with a 24-foot wide backup space. So that meets the standards of parking.
So the reason I ask is, I'm looking at the spots along the right side, and then you have like the number 36, and you go up to number 29 on the right side. I'm looking at the way those parking spots are drawn. One says 9 feet, and then one right above it, it looks considerably narrower. Is it drawing to scale?
Yeah, I see that. They are all, it should be all 9 feet. They do look wider.
Yeah, one's like 2/3 smaller than.
Yeah, right.
And so then I'm counting that there's 18 people that are renting spots there, and I'm just concerned that, are these spots really 9 feet by 18, or?
Yes, they are. These are definitely 9 by 18. Those are wider.
Or more than 9 then?
Yes.
And are they smaller? The ones you indicate, are they smaller?
Right.
The ones above where the dimension is provided, above the 9 by 18?
Is what, definitely wider, yes.
No, under number 29, those appear to be more narrow.
That one that says 18 feet in it, yes.
Beyond, above those two that are unmarked.
They are all 9 feet. Well, the intent is to be on at least 9 feet, but they are wider on both sides.
No, I understand the intents that they are 9 feet, but if it's not to scale and you can't fit those parking spaces, I think that's what Mr. Hochstein is trying to get at.
These here are 9 feet, where it says proposed parking area for apartments. Those are 9 feet.
So the one where it says 9 feet is actually wider than 9 feet? Is that?
Yes, yes.
So this isn't to scale. So then my other question is, if you are parking in where it says number 27 on the top left, and you rent that space out, and somebody needs to use that spot, how do they get in and out of that spot if there's a,
Well, the sign itself, I'll explain that to you, is a monopole sign, and it's based close to the state highway, and the sign extends in towards Morris Avenue, but it's, the bottom of the sign is 40 feet above ground. So there's no restriction of movement in that area.
well, this is where potentially where it says pole sign lease area, that's all paved?
It's the existing like compacted stone and broken pavement area.
It won't be fenced in?
No.
Is that an additional, I understand that I don't believe that was on the previous plans. Is that?
No, it was not.
Is that an additional request for relief at this time?
No, we're just designating where that area will be.
I think when the applicant comes before you and indicates that he has leased the area there, I imagine he will go into detail, and you will require detail of how he's going to either fence off the sign or how he's going to handle the space that he's leased.
He's already leased it.
No, he's already entered into an agreement that's contingent on board approval.
And I have a technical question for Mr. Disco. The parking spots in that private area, do they have to have pencil, the areas between it, or only in the public? The hairpin? Yeah.
Technically, the spaces for commercial or residential actually have to be paved and striped. I imagine the truck storage vehicles on the compacted stone is a different animal. I was going to ask Mr. Deck whether the proposed 6 spaces was going to be a paved area, but it would be required to be paved and hairpin striped, otherwise you'd have to request a waiver.
So if they're hairpin stripe, is it actually more than 9 feet between the spots then?
No, it's 9 to the center. Really.
Okay, that was my question.
While we're still on this area, I understand from aerial photographs of the site, I wasn't able to access that the way that this is laid out with parking spaces, designated 9 by 18 parking spaces, is not how the site functions today. It doesn't appear to, at least. I'll say that. It's proposed now that the site's going to be laid out like this, and then the tenants are going to utilize the spaces as prescribed on the site plan?
That's correct.
And there'll be no overflow storage within the middle portion that's unstriped. In the area of the site plan that says existing compacted stone broken pavement area, there'll be no additional outdoor storage within that area.
That's correct.
We had talked about lighting the parking lot.
The lighting is proposed in the parking area that's associated with the two buildings. This area in the back, we will have lighting attached to the garage itself, facing back, and you would, if required, you would put an additional light stanchion somewhere in that apartment area parking. But the rest of the site would be lit by the lighting on the existing buildings and the lighting on the masonry garage, wall-mounted lights.
I would think you would need to put parking, lighting where you're going to have the tenants parking, because it is a substantial walk to the apartment, and if it's any winterized weather, it would not be a good situation.
There, I believe there's an existing pole within that parking area here, it's not showing on the plan.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be something that, as I said, we're gonna light it off of this existing garage as a wall-mounted light, and we can put another light stanchion somewhere in the side of the parking area to illuminate the rest of the stalls.
I still have a question about that proposed area, as far as if the garage and container are being removed, obviously there's different configurations of how the parking can be provided. They can be provided next to where the 4 spaces are right now, especially if the other trailer is removed, there's a little bit of space back there now. Depending on whether a gate is proposed or not, I guess regardless of that, right now, the access to the rear portion of the site, is there curbing, or anything for that driveway access right adjacent to the trailer shown on the plan? Is that controlled in any way with curbing or anything?
No, no proposed curbing.
No curbing, no striping, no arrows, no nothing?
No.
And then as far as, Mr. Disco raised the question of if those residential spaces would be improved, paved, striped, and that leads to that question of will the spaces for the residential be coming off of that driveway that doesn't have any curbing or anything, or pavement? Are they gonna be paved or striped?
Where we say proposed parking for apartments?
Yes.
Right now, we're not proposing it, but I think as Mr. Disco just alluded to, he's going to ask whether or not we're proposing. And I would imagine that we would.
Yeah, the applicant thinks that Mr. Disco's idea is a good one, so we're going to pave and, line properly, as per the ordinance, apparently.
I think that would be helpful. I would recommend, I'm unsure of what the driveway will look like without the trailer, but it's gonna be considerably wider. And if parking is proposed up into the area where the trailer is, and if the lighting is poor, I really think that the driveway should have something controlling it and guiding. You have 2 different types of users back there. These tenants that store their equipment and operate their, businesses, and then you have residential tenants, who, I think the standard should be higher for how they, get back there safely, how they park their cars safely, and then as Ms. Navarano said, have lighting or some sort of, something to help.
Yeah, I think the applicant will, certainly when he's testifying, agree to proper signage, proper lighting, proper, I guess, lines, to make it as safe as possible.
Okay, and I guess I'll discuss further about the driveway, what the driveway looks like in there.
If the area is paved, the way everybody's been discussing, what happens to drainage? Is that still not, is that a non-issue? Does it become an issue?
I presume the current lot coverage shown doesn't count the stone area, because it's a pervious material. If it's paved, obviously the lot coverage would go up.
Reason for the question.
And if the lot coverage goes up and the pavement replaces the stone, then there would be an increased potential for runoff. It certainly doesn't seem like a huge area, but that could be mitigated in some way.
Is it something that you would be concerned with as an engineer?
I'm concerned with a lot of things.
Is that one of them?
It is in a flood zone as well, so it would trigger at least Mr. Deck getting either what's called a non-applicability or some sort of permit. There's no change in grade, and it's just a surface thing, so I think that's very achievable. But it would require some consideration for the impact of that, yes.
I have another question about the residential parking. I wanna,
So my understanding is the maximum lot coverage allowed is 81%, and we're at 30 to 32%. If we pave that area, I don't think we get that close to 81.
No,
I don't think it was a I don't think they were talking about the relief. No one was asking if it was gonna go
Okay.
over.
There would, I think the question was generated in, if it's paved, will runoff and flooding impacts be considered? And there will be more runoff when you go from a stone area to pavement area, so that would have to be addressed. Or the waiver for the stone could be requested. Remember, though, it is a residential parking area. So if you were that area, parking there every night, you'd be walking on the stone area. So I think the pavement is probably prudent for that type of use.
Yeah, I think the applicant would agree that the paving is the safer option than asking for a waiver for the stone.
I have a question about the residential parking. There's 6 spots here, and your chart says you need 8 for the residential. Where are the other 2 spots?
The chart says we have 12 plus 6 in the rear. So we have 12 here plus 6, which would be 6 here, for a total of 18.
That's the cumulative requirement, right? For your office space, your apartments, your retail, right?
Correct.
So it says that for the apartments, you need 8 spaces, correct? On your proposed parking calculation, 2-bedroom apartments, 4 apartments, 2 spaces each?
Yes.
8 spaces? So you have 6 spots dedicated for the apartments. Where are the other 2 that you're proposing?
Are they gonna be signed, are they gonna be?
The total would be 12. And the total number is 18 stalls required. And we have,
22 required.
pardon?
22 required.
So-
The bottom portion, the bottom chart, you have 22 spaces required for the cumulative uses proposed in the 2 buildings.
And there's 8 for residential, and they're showing 6 for residential. I just wonder where the other 2 are proposed for residential, that dedicated residential spots.
Yeah, 22 are required for the non-landscaping use. They're showing 12 and then 6, and as you're saying, the breakdown for the apartment is 8.
Right.
6 of which, of the 8, will be in that area.
Right, and then
There's
there's
still
2
2 others that will compete with the business use.
Right, so.
During regular business hours, yes.
Right.
I think there's still a question, I think there's a parking variance that's still required that's not shown on the plans. I understand that there's 12 spaces and 6 spaces and 18 total, but there's a requirement of 22. Even though 36 spaces are shown, 18 of those have been dedicated in the list that's been shown by landscaping tenants. So clearly the spaces in the back, whether there's 18 of them or not for the uses in the front. So I think you're still short 4 spaces.
Yeah, I think we went through the apartments. So, it would be 1 bedroom, 4
they would pick up two. If they got rid of the garage and the container, they would pick up two there.
Yeah, well, the previous plan actually had two, it had tandem spaces, if you recall, and then the space above space 12, so there were a few more spaces down there that have been removed.
Yeah, as a practical matter, losing the lower right or eastern garage and container, you're gonna gain two more than what's shown here.
And then you're gonna also pick up two in the back, because where that 18 is, you'd have two going the other way.
You can get four more.
Well, you'd only get the benefit of two more, because they already showed two.
You're right, net would be two.
The other thing that has to be addressed, though, is all of the spaces on the eastern side, there's currently bins, material bins, whether they're concrete or other material. In other words, all the landscaping supplies are, I mean, it's shown in my aerial that I included. So I still have to hear that we're losing that in order to put those vehicles there.
Yeah, I think when Mr. Santarella comes up, he'll be able to testify, but I had just suggested to him that perhaps the concern being residential tenants, that we dedicate all 8 of our spaces up front to residential, so none of the residential have to walk to the back. And then the people who are renting the first floor space, the business people, they'll be the ones parking in the rear. That way, the residential tenants who may come in the evening will not have to deal with driveways and lighting issues, even if they are addressed by extra lighting and extra lines. So I think we need 8 parking spaces for residential tenants, and we have behind the buildings, Ed, how many? 12. So if we make sure that 8 of the 12 are for residential tenants, then none of the residential tenants will have to deal with the rear, and we can assign the commercial people back there. And Mr. Santarella will, when he testifies, consent to that if that is an idea that is worthy of consideration.
What kind of trucks or vehicles are earmarked for these spots that are on the submission? Are they basically car size? Are they truck sized?
Excellent question, and I hope Mr. Santarella gives you the answer you want. I don't have the answer.
Are there any other questions for the engineer at this time? All right. Are there any members of the public that have any questions for the engineer at this time? Great. Don't go anywhere, because I have a feeling that you're going to be coming back, but I would like to hear from Mr. Santarella if that is who you are intending to call now.
Yes, it is.
Great.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please once again state your name and spell your last name.
Armine Santarella, Santarella.
Mr. Santarella, just to confirm what we've been telling the board, you're removing the trailer, correct?
Yes, I am.
And if the small garage and the container are asked to be removed, you have no problem removing those?
No problem at all.
Okay, so let's focus on the parking. Do you have any problem dedicating 8 of the 12 spots that are behind 266 and 268 to your residential tenants?
No problem.
And with regard to paving and hairpin striping, you're prepared to do that as well?
Yes, I am.
As far as lighting and signage for the driveways that lead to the back commercial area, as well as the smaller area for the parking for, we'll call it now commercial tenants for 266, 268, you don't have any problem adding that lighting
No problem.
Okay. Now, with regard to, is it Hirschbaum?
I was waiting to hear you try and pronounce my last name.
It's not?
Yes, Persickbaum.
Okay. His question with regard to who is parking in the back area. You had provided the board with a list of all the people who park back there. The question specifically was the size of the vehicles that park in these spaces.
They're mostly pickup trucks, and with some Mason dump trucks, which are a little bit bigger. A couple trucks have small trailers behind them, landscape trailers.
And these individuals who park there, they primarily from where?
Mostly from Springfield. All their businesses are based out of Springfield, so they work in Springfield every day. That's where they're always usually at, Springfield,
Okay.
customers.
Questions for the board?
Can I go back to my least question?
Oh, yeah, the lease question. You entered into a contingent lease with the company that is going to put a billboard, correct?
Yes, I did.
And how long is that lease if they are able to move forward?
5-year lease.
Do you have any options?
There's I think 5 years. 5 years.
5 and a 5?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe 5 and 5.
Back to Mr. Furstenbaum's question about the types of vehicles. You mentioned that some of these were trucks that have like landscape trailers behind them. Would they be, clearly the two of those wouldn't fit in one of these 9x18 or 9x20 space. So would the trailers be unhitched and parked in their own space?
Yes.
Okay, they won't be sticking out, you know?
No.
Okay. And then as far as the lease question, is it a 5-year lease or a 5-year contract for the not yet introduced billboard?
5-year lease.
5-year lease, okay.
I have a landscaping question. If you look at the aerial, you see a lot of trees in the back parking area. Are any of these trees being removed to create, more parking space?
No. I mean, maybe there's one tree, there's a sycamore tree that's next to the masonry garage. That will be removed for the entrance and exit for the residential tenants. There's one tree there.
Where do you put your trash? Is there a dumpster or something on their property?
No, everybody takes their own trash with them.
Oh, like cans for the apartments?
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be cans for the apartments, yes, when they come.
You've indicated that there are gonna be no pollutants or placed on the property. How do you do that with your tenants?
You mean
All of
hazardous,
whom-
you mean
all of
hazardous
whom are
materials?
landscapers, or most of whom.
Yeah, mostly landscapers, right.
I mean, what control have you over what is being stored by your tenants on the property?
Like garbage, you mean?
I'm talking about
Pesticides, things like that?
pesticides and other industrial.
Yeah, they have a trailer, an enclosed trailer, which they keep whatever they need to store inside in their trailers.
Do you have leases with these people, and is that part of your lease? Or
Yes.
is it all word of mouth?
Well, some have a lease, and some are word of mouth. Some are just month to month.
The trailer where they keep their supplies is on the property or? You just said that it's all locked, that you have to get it on the trailer.
I think you meant the vehicle that they pull, the little,
Yeah, the trailer that they pull for the trucks.
I have a question about your parking count. I count 18 people renting spots,
Right.
and if some of them have trailers, it seems like you're short on parking spots, based on having trailers and vehicles taking 2 spots.
What we're gonna propose, that's gonna be 18 right now, there's a couple trailers that are there now that need to be moved with the additional parking that we're gonna have.
So basically, the plan that you're proposing is the plan you're going to implement,
Correct.
and it may very well be that you don't have that much room for people that you already have there, but you have a number of people on a month-to-month lease that you
Correct.
could then terminate.
Correct.
So everything that comes in with landscaping is contained? Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
And so within that containment, however it may be attached to a vehicle, it will then have its own space. So nothing is going to be, the bins, let's say, are those remaining on the property? Are those being removed from the property?
They're staying, but they're gonna be dedicated for just parking only, not material. Not my material, because right now, some of it's my material.
Will there be any type of outdoor storage on site?
If we keep the one that's there now, the storage in the little garage, yes. If we have to move it to accommodate the other parking spots, no.
Are you talking about the thing that says garage masonry or the thing to the right that says garage? I'm sorry, yeah.
The garage container. They went to the right here. This needs to be moved for the parking, then we're gonna remove it.
So that is the only place on the site that there's currently outdoor storage?
Right.
And the trailers that are attached to the top of each landscaper's truck, I believe they're like gonna be detached, so would that mean that the truck and the trailer for each landscaper would need like 2 spots?
Right,
Okay.
right. So they're not sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
So that-
That's part of a separate lot and not going to be part of the ADU, correct?
No.
They're taking 2 spaces of the 18.
Correct, which means that the list would be cut in half.
basically.
So when you pull into your space now and you have the masonry and you go to the left where your trailers currently are,
Mhm.
those, and then you have the spots that are close to the apartment building. The apartment building will be for the tenants, because parking space is there. To the back, you're going to. Because I see in the aerial picture that we have, there's like, if they're like in a circular, is that being changed?
Yes.
I think what the board, your questions are very good. The board, as they're considering this, should start to build some conditions that you're comfortable with and ask the applicant if they're comfortable with. No outdoor storage of materials, no parking of vehicles or storage bins or anything of the like outside of the striped 18 spaces. Tenants limited to those spaces only. No parking of oversized vehicles, that won't fit in a 9x18 or a 9x20 space. Because there are some vehicles in the aerial right now that are a dump truck's not gonna fit in a 9x18, it's gonna take up 2 spaces. So I don't think right now you can limit the number of tenants because that's so unclear, but you can build conditions that in the future, would keep it to how the site plan looks and doesn't get out of hand from there. So if you are comfortable with that.
And then would the trailers be parked near where the pole's going for the billboard?
You mean here, you're saying?
Yeah, so there, I mean, I know he explained that it's a monopole, and so they're up higher, so you can,
Right.
the ground is open.
Yep.
But are you parking trailers back
There's
there?
gonna be pickup trucks
This guy.
and, just pickup trucks and trailers.
Where?
Where the monopole, where the
adjacent to it? Underneath it? You can restrict that if the board is not, pleased with that. This is.
Substantial loss in land
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the lease agreement includes that, but the board certainly can restrict these. Rather, I just say it may be more productive to, instead of asking questions about what's happening today, because clearly the site plan is very different from what's happening today, ask the applicant if they'd be willing to restrict, or discuss as a board things that you'd like to restrict.
Are you planning on removing the trees where the poles are going for the billboard?
No.
So my concern with some of what we're looking at, I understand the parking for the tenants, I understand what you're trying to do there. It's further back with the trailers, your current masonry, the spaces, the billboard, and how that all lays out to be the appropriate parking. So I don't know if you can provide some more clarity on that, because that's the part that I'm trying to better understand how this can work.
I think what is going to happen is that the applicant is going to wait to see what happens with this area here. And he is going to make sure that the people in this area that are abutting the area designated for this billboard are month-to-month people that he can control the space. If those people are successful in getting approvals for that billboard, we'll know the dimensions, then the conditions that this board puts on that use. And then we will be in a better position to adapt and cut our roster of tenants down to the number that'll properly fit. So his proposal, again, is to lease this area to only 18 spaces, whether some of those people take 2 spots or 1. Perhaps some are oversized and stick out beyond the 918. Those people will not be able to lease from him. But with regard to what happens in this area here, I think the applicant will remain as flexible as he can, not lock himself into any permanent tenancies, and then adjust accordingly to whether that application succeeds or fails or has conditions and limitations that he'll have to meet if he wants that tenant.
I think when I look at the aerial view and I look at the layout proposed, the proposed layout does not match your current tenant pool. It just doesn't seem to work for the type of tenants that you have right now. It's not a good layout for the type of tenants you have. Because the spaces are, you're limiting even more spaces, because if every landscaper has a truck and a trailer, so that's 2 spaces for every landscape truck you have there. So based on your current, tenant pool, based on the aerial, you definitely do not have enough spaces here to facilitate that tenant pool. And I think that back here in these further back spaces where you intend to lease the property to the billboard, those spaces are even cut short for that area that's going to be designated for the billboard. So I just think that the current layout does not match your,
No, we have to
the
change-
commercial
we have
tenant,
to
the
change
commercial
everything-
tenancy.
Change everything to accommodate.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this application is approved, a number of those people will lose their opportunity to park back there.
Right.
And it'll be adjusted downward in terms of number. It'll be adjusted downward in terms of the vehicles that can fit back there. And those changes will be implemented at that time.
Now, do you currently store any type of materials back there, like mulch, crushed stone and stuff like that?
I have a topsoil bin right now. I use for topsoil.
Mr. Cunningham, I think there's a lot of, it's very fluid right now, but there's a lot of parking things we have to consider. I heard that there's not gonna be, or at least it was a discussion, we're not gonna have exterior storage of materials. I think that's pretty much been on the record. So I don't know why we would even keep storage bins there that limit the flexibility of vehicles and that we're gonna park within the confines of the walls of the storage bins. Mr. Deck doesn't show them on the plan. I don't know what the dimension is of the width of those storage bins. So that's one thing. If we're not gonna have material storage, why have the storage bins? Second, we talked a little bit about getting the 8 residential up front, which is great for the residential, but certainly then puts a burden, and think about it, if you're a commercial visitor to the site, you're going to a doctor office or whatever, are you going to drive to the rear of it and park there or find alternative parking? I understand the desire to keep the residential parking secure and safe, but probably during the day, that's a smaller component of what's gonna be parked on the site. Mr. Santarelli he can divvy up the parking as seems fit and proper, but my point on that is that the commercial parking is gonna find alternatives, whether it's Duffy's Lot on the street, that's gonna be closer than parking behind the garage. So I'm a little worried about that, actually, that if all 8 are dedicated to the immediate rear of the building, all of the employees and then the visitors of what will be a couple of commercial establishments are gonna park illicitly elsewhere. Certainly, I think employee parking can be controlled by Mr. Santarelli, and they can park at the rear, but the normal visitors to those commercial establishments, again, how do you control that? They're coming there, here or there, some of them, whereas the residents familiar with the site are gonna be there every day. And then the other thing is, as we showed a 2010 aerial and a 2022 aerial. The layout and the vehicles, I mean, these are not gonna fit in 9x18s. I don't know how easy it is to detach these things. Routinely, right now, they're not being detached. And there's the expansion of what is the area of the site has encroached now into municipal property through no approvals or permits. And so there's been no control as to how this site is operating. So I'm hearing a lot about we're gonna reduce the number of tenants that haven't had scrutiny to this point in time. That's putting a very difficult onus on who's going to control that, and how do we measure that, and how do we ensure that that whatever scheme of parking we come up with is actually gonna be followed. So we're changing on the fly here. And I think the changes in the testimony have been very helpful, but I'm just trying to raise, in the broader parking consideration here, I think we really need to tie down where we're going with this, with either conditions or, I don't wanna say revise the plan, but we need more certainty of stuff.
I think it'd be more prudent to have a definitive plan of the commercial parking area than just what we have here, because it has to be reflective of the type of tenants you're gonna have back there. Not just that we'll fit whatever we can in a regular, 9x18 spot.
I agree. I think the recommendation from my end is, and what I've been hearing from the board and Mr. Disco, is the 9x18 spaces, in theory, fit normal parking, but the back lot is not intended to be normal parking. It's intended to house landscaping vehicles and their materials. And so there's really no need to confine it to 9x18. What would probably be more logical would be to have a site plan where you showed, separate sections for each tenant that was laid out in an organized manner. I think the encroachment is another issue onto the municipal property, where for this to work in a more organized fashion, there probably should be some sort of fencing along the property line to contain it so it doesn't continue to encroach over time. Generally, outdoor storage, outdoor businesses like this, or properties used for this are usually rife with encroachment because it's hard to contain. So I'd recommend fencing on the western property line, and I'd also say, you know, forget showing 36 tenants, forget showing 9 by 18 spaces. The reality of it is that each of these tenants is not gonna fit their business, it's not gonna fit their lease space into a 9
Well,
by
yeah, they are, because it's gonna be 9 by 18, so it's gonna be a pickup truck and a trailer. That's the only tenants that are gonna be there. So basically, one tenant will have 2 spots, their pickup and a trailer. And that's more than enough room for a 9 by 18.
So from a practical standpoint, because there is so much open area in between, what I'm nervous about is that this business model of using a normal commercial parking space is going to lead to people parking with their trailer attached, backing into the space the same way it's shown today, and parking and leaving and having their nose out or having their trailer stick out another 10 feet. And effectively, you know, the center of the site's gonna get smaller and smaller.
There's more than enough room, though, to make that turn,
So-
we had big trailers and dump trucks before, back in, you know, years ago.
That's the point, is like, if there is enough room and people can impede upon what was approved, can impede upon the 9 by 18 space and say, I can park with my nose of my truck 10 feet out into the parking lot and people can still get around me, let's keep it that way. And there's enforcement at that level becomes very, very difficult. And so, all I'm saying is there's no reason to confine this to 9 by 18. If you're truncating your tenant list anyway, if that's a reality of the future, because most of these trucks are not gonna just have a pickup truck parking in a normal space, the plan needs to be more definitive for the board to better understand what the impacts are gonna be, how the site's gonna function moving forward. And so if you only have, you have 5 areas that are 10 by 40 for tenants, fine, whatever that ends up being, but I think it needs to be more solidified than just 9 by 18 spaces and saying, my tenant list is gonna change, it's clearly not gonna be 18. I got month by month people, it has to be more definitive, because I think when this application came before, the landscaping was kinda ancillary. It was something we talked about after we started talking about the front building. And I think it's really, really crucial that we understand how these operate together, and it's really up in the air right now. As Mr. Disco said, we're planning this on the fly, we're changing things on the fly, we're talking about taking things out and maybe not taking things out, and I think there needs to be a more solid plan before the board can consider.
I think the best way is for the board, I mean, we're willing to abide by whatever conditions the board puts on it. The bins we can eliminate, fencing we can place there. 9 by 18's no good, we can go with another size. But as the board may recall, we were here initially for trying to get these apartments built in the front, which is his obvious income source. I know the board, it's not a matter that the board should take into consideration, but there is an economic hardship. We are prepared to abide by the conditions. We eliminate the bins. We obviously, the drawing of the site plan places the parking within the confines of his ownership area, so any encroachment will be eliminated. You had asked, obviously, for a roster of who parks there. We've provided the roster. That roster will change. And the purpose of the board is to grant approvals and variances, and we want to now place this property into compliance with what Springfield wants. And we're prepared to abide by the conditions. We understand, we've heard what the conditions, or some of them, that you wish to have. And safety for the residential seems to be a concern that seemed most important to my client. So that's why we would put the priority on the 8 spaces there. As far as the commercial tenants, the customers that may utilize the first floor space, yeah, they may park on the street, they may park on whatever municipal parking is available, but I think that's normal in a commercial downtown district, which I believe this building is a part of. So I would appeal to the board to give us the conditions you wish for us to abide by, and we will do that. And we will, like I said, comply with the conditions to make this a safe and productive area.
I just want to add, I mean, I watched the tapes of the last hearing. There was some discussion about the redevelopment of downtown and access through the municipal. How does this whole thing dovetail into the plan for the back and accessing the parking lot through the municipal area? Is that a problem over time that we're, if we were to grant this, we're still granting it on the ability to go through the municipal lot? Is that something that, you know, that, how do we comment on that?
It's linked and related, yes, there's no question about that. And one of the sidebars to this is that Mr. Santarelli is going to require an easement, access easement from the municipal property, which is not in place, apparently, from all the research that's been done. It's problematic in the sense that 45 parking spaces have been promised to the Gomes redevelopment project, which was the first redevelopment project done in Springfield. Those were targeted for the Duffy's lot. Subsequent to that, it was amended to be the Duffy's lot and what we conventionally call the DMV lot. Because we had gotten the upshot early on that the DMV was leaving, so that municipal lot would be able to accommodate during the day, whereas it couldn't when DMV was operating. So we still have to, and this is not, the board can't change this, Mr. Santarelli can't ignore it, 45 parking spaces have to be dedicated. If you look at the Duffy's lot right now, because of the modifications that have happened with COVID and this and that, and the access, you can't get 45 parking spaces in there and then provide municipal parking for other entities. It's a problem. So the access that currently exists may not exist going forward, and that's a whole separate issue that will have to be worked through. But heretofore, the committee has, and it's not me, Mr. Santarelli believes I have the magic wand on this. The committee has to grant that access easement. So any intensification of the site also works against that operation of how that is. If we add more vehicles or more vehicles are permitted, and obviously there's a minor intensification by adding the apartments, but not so great that can't be managed in some way. So I'm trying to answer your question, but
I don't know how they dovetail
yeah,
together.
and it also goes to why the first meeting, the issue that the blockage of the Morris Avenue, which is a self-induced safety concern that hasn't been really weighed in on by other people. Certainly the landscaping vehicles are probably too large for the 9.1 constriction at the front of Morris. But the other users, the residential users and the commercial users, doesn't necessarily mean you can't. It's the same width as a parking space at the tightest thing. So it can be utilized. So there's a lot going on here, and they all interrelate to some degree. So everything that we're talking about also has a component of a condition that an access agreement is going to have to be derived from the municipality. The municipality has the constraint of the 45 vehicles. So the access that currently is there now may not survive that 45 vehicle dedication. That dedication is at the termination of the Gomes completion. As we all are aware, we're 4 years in. Their target was upon erection of steel, 30 to 36 months. The steel essentially is at 95% at this point. So we may still see construction for another 2 to 3 years on Gomes, at which point the 45 parking space issue comes to bear. So I'm trying to be broad on that.
And as Mr. Disco knows, we did try to address the easement issue some 9 months ago, and I think as council knows, we sent a letter, we contacted the town attorney, and we just haven't gotten a response. So we're aware of the issue, and we've used whatever best faith efforts we can to engage the community, the town, in a discussion about the easement, and we have not gotten a response. I even drafted a proposed easement and sent it there. No response, other than I'll get back to you. In 9 months, they haven't got back to us.
So if Duffy's Corner's exit becomes, is no longer used, then your landscaping trucks can no longer exit the property.
Correct, yeah, if we have a commercial parking area for commercial vehicles, and if we have no access point, you don't have a use.
So now you originally needed 8 parking spots for the tenants. If you had put.
For the residential tenants?
For the residential tenants, if you put 4 directly behind the building for your concern, and then move 4 to that other spot there, then further back where you have the commercial space, instead of making it 9 by 18, would you be open to the suggestion of less spots but larger spots so they can pull them with their trailer and then they're not in goes out, which would then solve that issue?
Yes, if the board suggests that as a condition, we will do it.
I think that's your better option, because I don't know much about landscaping, but I can't see them every day unhitching, pulling that back, really, like, I think we're going too far deep into this. So if you offer 4, residential tenant spots right behind the apartment building, that gives the majority of people the ability to park there. That also means your commercial spaces also open, you have 8 spots on there, so that's 4 open spots, have employees park in the back. And I think that alleviates some of our parking situation. And I think we need to revamp the trailer spacing to less but larger, so you don't have that issue.
Makes sense.
That would be my suggestion.
While that might make sense, I just don't think that it's the board's job to place these conditions and reconfigure the property, because at that point, I don't even know if we'd know what relief we're granting and what the deficiencies would be. I mean,
The conditions are not meant to redesign the site.
Correct.
Which you don't have in front of you right now, and what could happen, it's the risk of the board, is that you could literally end up with something you didn't intend to, because you were just implying conditions to help create restrictions that you can't see. The point of a site plan is that you can see it.
Question for, what is the possibility of you guys just redesigning the commercial parking area so that it fits the type of tenant you're gonna have back there? And
We designed it so it's gonna fit a truck, pickup truck. and a
these
trailer.
spots will not fit a pickup truck and a trailer.
No, separately.
But more than likely, that's not gonna,
That's we gotta accommodate to what we need, you know?
I know, but to accommodate what you need is really a spot for a pickup truck and a trailer.
So it'd be less, but
I mean, I just don't think, that when you guys designed the back, you just striped it out as spaces and not really thought, your design team didn't really think about the tenants that you actually have back there and how to best utilize that space for the type of tenants that you
Well,
have.
Most of them are just single pickup trucks, so it's not like everybody's gotta pick up in a trailer. A lot of them are just parked in Mason dumps or just pick up.
But
Let's
you
go.
know
Can we
your,
have- can we
but
have
you know
5
your
minutes?
tenants, so you
5-minute
know,
break?
yeah,
you know your
let
tenants.
Mr. Cunningham please finish.
You know your tenants, so you know which ones need the larger spaces, and you know the ones that need just a single space. Design it so that it fits your tenant role. And I think you'd have a much better layout and a clearer picture to the board as to how that space is gonna be actually utilized as. I mean, to
Well,
sit
we
here
really
and,
designed it for just like a pickup truck only. So if they can't do the trailer, then they can't park there. I mean, that's how it's gotta be. I'll just keep it all pickup trucks if I have to. They don't have to bring their trailers here. Let's just break. You know?
Let's take a 5-minute break. It is 7:36. All right, we are back on the record. It is 7:50. Mr.
Okay.
Goodman, did we come up with a plan?
Yes, so our proposal will be to limit the area for commercial vehicles to 9 spaces, basically, which is a doubling of the size with nothing beyond the lot line that borders the area where the proposed billboard area is. Oh, there he is. Ed, just so, just confirm, so it's 5 spaces on this side?
5 double spaces, 18 feet wide,
And 4 on this
and
side?
4 18 by 18 stalls on that side.
So in addition,
5 18 by 8, one stall will be 18 by 18. We'll have 5 stalls that are 18 by 18 on the westerly side, and 4 stalls that'll be 18 by 18 on the easterly side.
in addition, the area will be placed within the confines of my client's property. Any encroachment on the municipal property will be eliminated. The area that is my client's property will be fenced in, separated from the municipal property. The container and small garage will be eliminated. And Ed, how many parking spaces will be added there?
Right, we'll be able to add 2 spaces where the garage,
What's that? Oh, okay.
where the garage and container will be eliminated. So that gives you 6 on the southerly side. We'll add an additional 2 here, which will give you 4. So we have the 4 plus the 8 here, 10 plus the 8 here, which gives you the 18 that's needed. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to have a total of 12 stalls here, 10 stalls there, be a total of 22, 8 for the residential, and additional 10 stalls here for residential.
And the 10 stalls that you're speaking of is that the eastern side of the
Yes.
lot? Great, just for purposes of the record.
Correct.
And I think that what we're gonna do, Bruce, maybe, is we'll have the A1 was the plan, A1 was the colorization. Where were we with the plan without the trailer that wasn't introduced?
That's this right here.
Right, so that's this one?
Yes.
Which I think we should probably,
It was submitted as part of the record.
no, the one without the trailer was not submitted as part of the record, correct?
That's correct.
There was an additional sheet this evening.
That's correct.
Did not have the trailer.
That's
So we're
correct.
gonna mark that into the record without the trailer. And then I think we should have a additional sheet, which is going to be this sheet that you're showing us now that is marked up. And that will be given to us as an exhibit.
Exhibit, that's correct.
Did you follow that?
Yeah, so A1 will be the one without the trailer. A2,
No,
okay. A2 will be the one without the trailer. A3 will be this drawing with the,
that's A2.
I think A1 is the colorization. A2 is without the trailer, correct?
That is correct. That we're going to hand in another sheet. Mr. Goodman has it.
Oh, another sheet.
And this markup tonight, right here, will be handed in as A3. And so we now have, yes.
Just to be clear, A2 is,
The same drawing here without the trailer.
but is it sheet 3 of 3?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have 12 spaces behind the mixed-use buildings. We have 10 spaces on the eastern side of the lot before the commercial parking spaces.
Correct.
You have 4 commercial spaces on the eastern side that are doubled in size now, and you have 5 on the western side of the lot.
That's correct.
And will that side be fenced to delineate between the municipal parking, the municipal lot and the applicant's lot?
Yes.
I would recommend the condition that those 8 spaces be limited to 8 maximum tenants. So
8 what, tenants?
maximum tenants,
Oh.
so that a space can't be rented out, can't be subdivided to another tenant. You can't have
Okay.
like 2 people parking in the same stalls.
Did we put a condition that there'll be no parking outside of the spots?
I would recommend that there's also conditions related to the portion of the property at the rear that's not, hasn't been sectioned off for these tenant spaces, that anything that's outside of those 18 by 18 spaces not be used for the storage of materials, goods, vehicles, or other.
And with regards to where the billboard is going, is that fence?
I would say that that area remain,
Remain empty.
To be determined.
yeah, remain unused for outdoor storage also. If you want to include that area, I'd say do not allow it for
Well-
storage, vehicles, tenants, anything.
Is there any outdoor storage permitted on the lot? Are we allowing any?
They haven't shown anything on the site plan for outdoor storage, so I
No
would
outside,
say
no outdoor storage.
No outdoor storage,
no outdoor storage.
period.
Can I'm sorry, can I go back?
Landscapers, I like no pulmonary irritants, or industrial pollutants on the property as well. And, I mean, he says there's not gonna be any, he should have no problem agreeing to that.
Okay,
And that includes the tenants.
okay. Hold on. We're gonna start again. Bruce, we're gonna start again. Okay, so the first condition is that there is a fence. Right, between the municipal lot,
Lot 25.
right, on the western side, between the, yes, lot 25 and lot 10?
And our lot 10.
Lot 10. Okay. The 8 spaces, sorry, you said 8, it's 9, right? There's 5 and 4.
5 and
Okay.
4.
So the 9 spaces that are dedicated for the commercial parking uses and trailer parking, are going to be limited to 8 maximum tenants? 9 maximum tenants?
That's presuming each tenant is a one parking space utilization. I don't know if that's the case. Mr. Santarella had, I think, 5 vehicles of his own listed on the sheet.
Well, if
So you're saying, Mr. Disco, that one tenant can't take 2 spaces?
No, I heard 9 tenants, and I'm trying to.
Yeah, we might be less tenants, but they would take 2 spaces.
9 or less?
9 or less.
9 or less. Okay. No outdoor storage
Correct.
or pollutants or hazardous materials of anything.
It is a flood zone, so I don't think we're supposed to be storing certain materials in a flood zone anyway, irrespective of what a landscape business normally would have. So I think, I don't know what every single material is that you're not supposed to have in a flood zone. I think we just have to be we're trying to achieve that, I guess, is the point. I don't
Yes.
know how we word it. Is that fair? I mean,
Okay. The 10 spaces that now exist on the eastern side where we are removing the garage and containers, bins, will be paved and striped?
Correct.
Okay.
with lighting, wall mounted or whatever.
With lighting.
I would also,
How about, with the paving, that there be some restriction or some indication of repair, of, looking to make sure that doesn't augment an already flooding situation in the
any
back
additional
there.
required stormwater management.
Yeah, I'm not saying it very articulately, I know it, but you're getting the drift of where my
Perfect.
mind is going.
So if the paving results in any necessary stormwater management, that will be a condition as well.
Subject to the approval of the board engineer.
Subject to the approval of the board engineer.
I would also recommend that any of these additions or changes as shown on A3 be provided in a revised site plan. We're gonna need that for resolution compliance, and so I need updated site plan.
Okay.
And removal of the bins, which I think is self-evident, but.
The bins will be removed.
Did you say anything about not any vehicles being parked outside of the line spaces as a, I think that was one of the things we talked about.
No vehicles or.
No oversized vehicles beyond the
No
confines of the
vehicles
space.
parked outside of the parking spaces, right?
Yes.
We haven't finalized it. Will it be any kind of gate of any kind, or will be open access to the back?
Well, would we fence in the apartment parking, be fenced in with the gate? We will have, as recommended by one of the board members, a defined driveway area with some
Signage?
Well, I think,
signage and also curbing.
Wait, back, sorry, slow down, sorry. We were chatting.
from a fencing in the back.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10 spaces now proposed in the back. 8 are required by the residential unit. So I don't know if fencing is the practical way to move forward, because if you're gonna utilize those spaces for a mix now, there's 10 spaces back there. It has to be open, I think.
Okay.
I don't think you can lock it.
I think the concern is safety. And so I don't know if that they necessarily have to be fenced in any way or gated in any way. I think it's really about lighting measures that are taken on those spots.
Lighting, even striping of a,
Right.
of a pedestrian walkway towards the front of the building along the garage might be helpful.
I like that.
Yeah, just because that parking needs to be not only striped and paved and striped, but it needs to be inviting also, because otherwise people are not gonna use those spaces. It's gonna be in a very tricky area where it's behind a garage, a masonry garage, it's attached to another use in the back. So whether or not it has a fence, a gate around it, fencing probably is fine to delineate the area. But lighting and I think striped walkways, would be.
Stripe walkways.
Striped
Pedestrian
walkways.
walkways.
Yeah, you don't have to pave them.
And do we need any signage to indicate what?
Yeah, signage for parking for the commercial buildings, signage for parking for the commercial vehicles.
I
Yes.
think there also will probably, if this portion of the site is in the flood hazard area, is it
Right.
thing? I think you're required by the DEP to put signs up that say that this area is subject to flooding for a liability standpoint.
Okay.
The entire site is in the flood, or is it the rear?
The whole site.
Okay.
I know they say that at the Bergen County Courthouse, when you park in back of it, there are big signs all over the place in that courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have signs in Duffy's Corner lawn about the flooding.
Same
It
sign.
does, flash storms, it does flood.
So with this new parking layout, we are no longer deficient on the requisite parking for the mixed-use buildings.
They meet the 22 space
They
requirement.
meet 22 spaces.
Correct.
So that's no longer relief that would be required. Okay? Are we, probably not. Are we dedicating spaces to the residential and commercial, or are we leaving it open?
I would leave it open right now.
Okay.
I mean, again, you only suggest employee parking to the worst, furthest place. To me, makes sense.
I agree with
I
that.
think you could leave that up.
Okay.
If you want to impose that, I think employees should park in the least desirable places.
That could be,
There for the whole day.
that could be written into a lease agreement too as well, designated parking, but.
Impose
Yeah, but
it,
that's,
but not impose
no,
it.
yeah, I don't think,
Self-govern that, but again, my fear is if, not to prejudice the residential tenants, but if they're all dedicated up front, the likelihood of visitors parking behind the masonry garage.
I think so
When
long
you
as.
get employees there, I think that opens up the rest of the balance of the lot.
Right, so I think that, yes, I think that the employees parking for 268 and 266 should be dedicated to the, behind the masonry building.
Yeah, it's common sense. If you want to impose it as a condition, fine.
Right. And then everything else, we've taken the necessary measures.
Can I just review a couple things that came up?
Yes.
The garage slash container and trailer are going to be removed.
Correct.
Okay.
And Bruce, to that point, the variance relief that was required for the accessory structures, I indicated in my memo at the time, I think they sought 2. On their site plan, it shows 2. I think there were 4 at the time. They've since removed 3. They removed the garage, the container, and the trailer, and so there's only 1. So the relief is now down to the 1, the existing masonry garage, and I want to limit it, just have the record reflect that, it's limited to the 1 accessory structure.
That was done. At one point, there was a question about no vehicles larger, wider than a parking space. Is that necessary?
I think we've eliminated that because they
Okay.
increased the width of the spaces.
Okay, I think I have everything. Thank you. No, they're agreeing that that's going to stay vacant.
So just one other topic, the void areas where, in the commercial area parking where the, say, trucks and trailers, any open space is gonna remain an open space and not facilitated. Any, road parking and/or storage of materials or.
You're talking about the
Or other
area
ancillary-
between the two, the center area between.
Yeah, the
two
center
sides,
area
yeah.
between, yes,
It remains
vacant.
vacant with no storage. Right,
Right.
correct.
Anything additional from our professionals?
I just have one question about the site plan where it says reserved parking between the buildings. What is that? Are you parking cars there? Is that,
I think the owner had testified that sometimes I think he would park, or that they would, the owner would park there. If you look at the Google Earth photo, there's a picture of like a Toyota Camry, like, sitting between there. So a car can fit there. I think it was just utilized as an extra, pop-in spot for whoever owned the property before.
I don't think that nobody approached the fire department for emergency access purposes about that, so I would probably delete that claim, that designation of a reserved parking space. I mean, in an emergency, police and fire are going to want access however they can this way. So to have a chain across there and a car there, obviously could be very problematic in an emergency.
So is that designation on the site plan right now, currently?
it's on there, it says
All
reserved
right, so
parking.
we're gonna remove that. Reserved parking between 268 and 266. Anything else?
What did we do with the walkway designation in between those two buildings?
That's what we just did. We removed any type of parking or blockade, I guess, to that.
But if there is an area for somebody to walk in, will that make it too narrow for a car to walk, to drive through?
You mean if we do like a pedestrian walkway through there?
Yeah, even if there's a narrow thing, it isn't all that wide to begin with. Again, I'm just raising the issue, I have no opinion.
I don't think you delineate a walkway there, certainly don't stripe it. All the other Morris Avenue properties that have this type of, I'll call it an alleyway access over here, there's no striped walkway or pedestrian. Because there's usually rear access to the building and front access.
I don't know if we can do that, because if the access doesn't exist in Duffy's, they're gonna have to utilize that for the cars.
Well, they'll have to come back for,
I think,
no, they would. They would
there
have
is
to
a
come back for
driveway
relief.
there, so anybody that attempts to turn in, if they see an obstacle, it forces them to stop, which is not necessarily the safest thing. Because now Morris Avenue traffic doesn't anticipate that you stop there. So, it should probably remain open. It may not be utilized, but it should remain open. I don't think you have to designate a pedestrian route. I guess we didn't really talk about the handicap access. There is a handicap space in the rear. They have to be positioned to be generally the shortest realistic route to the building. So where that handicap space is as close as you can to the building in this case. I don't know what the route is to the building. Whether there's rear handicap accessibility or they have to come to the front. You have to come to the front, it's a little bit more troubling because you should, may have to designate where the handicapped person goes.
So do we take that spot and say, instead of reserve parking, no parking?
Between the buildings?
Yeah. We did.
I think by eliminating the reserved parking designation, it's open,
She's open, free and open.
open for access.
Right.
Plus, I'm sure nobody from the fire police said, yeah, that's a great idea to put a vehicle. Maybe it's not a good idea to utilize the driveway in today's world, but nobody, I'm sure, has said, put a vehicle there, that's a great idea.
Right.
So it's going to be open. Yeah, we have the condition to remove the reserve parking. And no barrier to that access.
One other thing, if I might.
Yeah. Get it right the
The
first time.
current storage bins are still going to be knocked down?
Eliminated.
Eliminated, yeah. Okay.
Anything else from members of the board? Anything else from our professionals?
The only other, I don't mean to continue this on too much, but from the first meeting, I don't believe, and this is minor point, about the building design, I don't remember if there was a discussion about the color of the building.
Oh, there was.
They wanted a lighter shade.
Yes.
Yes, I believe that. I don't remember if anything was decided upon, but I do want to just mention that in case the board did want to dictate anything in the conditions about that.
Didn't we want it to align with the aesthetic of the frontage? Like, it was dark, it was very in the picture?
Very dark, and I think I think we might have discussed a lighter shade of gray, maybe.
Yes.
I think the
Yes.
applicant also agreed that he wanted a lighter shade of gray.
Okay. A lighter shade of gray for the buildings.
And we can have, if you want to add in that condition, Bruce, to, not to put on Mr. Disco and myself, but to say that a revised rendering will be provided as part of resolution compliance. An updated rendering will be provided.
Updated
Rendering.
rendering, okay.
I just want to make sure before we head to a vote that there are no members of the public here that wish to speak on the testimony that was given this evening or on this application. None. Okay.
If we can, just for the record, A3 was the marked up version. Has that been designated as A3? If we could just.
I marked it A3.
A3 with today's date, if you could. And then a new clean version of that sheet will be submitted as A2, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. With all of the conditions discussed on the record, is there a motion to approve preliminary and final site plan, use variance, and the relief that was sought on this application?
I'll move to approve with the condition as stated.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Naparano?
Yes.
Mr. Furstenbaum?
No.
Ms. Horowitz? Ms. Dotson? Vice Chair Cunningham?
Yes.
Chair Cowan?
Yes.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses and 2 noes, motion passes.
I want to thank the board for working with us this evening. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.